Hello and welcome to another video from Between the Ropes TV. Today we're going to go through the massive announcement from DAZN with regards to KSI and Misfits boxing. They've signed a 5-year deal, Josh. Can you believe it? 5 years. What's going on there?
I mean, it makes me feel sick, to be completely honest. On a day today that 1.36 billion operating loss on top of a 1.15 billion operating loss the previous year. And I know people will say they're COVID years. We've covered that in a separate video, or I have earlier. However, obviously, this Misfits thing and KSI is a financial draw. We've seen people go ballistic for his energy drink. It must be a draw because they would not have committed a 5-year deal to them. But, I said it before and I'm going to say it again. I worry about boxing because what we've seen on these shows are TikTok people, OnlyFans girls. They box each other and they're taking shots clean to the face. Now, I know the technique of the people throwing the punches, they're all as equally untalented or unexperienced as each other. However, you don't have to be Deontay Wilder to be throwing shots. If you start taking shots flush on the head, at some point it's going to knock you out, which we've seen, and at some point it's going to do you permanent damage. And you just know what will happen. We've seen it throughout history, and it's a shame. When that happens and some poor young little TikTok person is in a hospital bed, what's going to happen then is the whole sport of boxing is going to be blamed. And then, as we saw, most recently with Nick Blackwell when he fought Chris Eubank Jr. in 2015, I think it was, all over Good Morning Britain, you couldn't escape it, could you? Should boxing be banned? And the answer is no. Professional boxing shouldn't be banned. Yes, we see a scary knockout from time to time. But the fact that at the end of the year, we're doing knockout of the year videos, and realistically, there was 3 or 4 that we could choose from that were scary knockouts. When you think of how many professional boxing matches there are per year, the fact that you can narrow it down to such a small sample, for me, in a sport that ultimately involves being punched in the face, I don't think it's that bad. But these are trained professionals. So that's the first sort of big issue I've got with it. The second big issue I've got with it, the second half of last year, DAZN's schedule was just not good enough. I'm a Matchroom fan. I'm a fan of what they've done with Eddie Hearn, the stable, everything that they've done. The last 10 years for me, they've took boxing back to the forefront of people's minds. However, it wasn't a good enough time. All you saw on social media was different people cancelling DAZN subscriptions. You couldn't blame them. Or, if we didn't have this channel, I'll be brutally honest, I probably would have done the same because it's been woeful at times.
Wow.
But we've then got the likes of, Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith. These are huge names in British boxing fighting once a year. And there's not the dates, there's not the shows. Well, hang on a minute. This 5-year deal is 6 events a year for Misfits. For me, that's 6 dates per year that genuine professional boxers aren't going to get out. We did our interview with Tommy Frank the other day. It was no secret. It was all over social media that his fight with Jay Harris was supposed to be on the December 10th Josh Warrington card. After the Conor Benn saga, obviously the shuffle, the domino effect, he ended up getting bounced. I totally understand that. However, there was Misfit shows between October and December. So why couldn't we have had another professional show? Do you understand what I'm saying? I might be being harsh, but I just think there's no win, and we still don't see subscriber numbers. So clearly this Misfits draws a subscription base to DAZN. But do they stay? Do they watch the professional boxing? How many people are going to tune in for KSI on Saturday and are then going to watch Wood Lara? That's my question.
Yeah. And it brings me to my next point, which you've kind of half answered really about does this detract from the fighters already existing with Matchroom and their availability to get themselves out? Because surely they must be glancing an envious eye at what is going on at Sky, which I wouldn't call a revolution, but more of an evolution, if that makes sense. Looking at people like Lawrence Okoli going on there. We did have Dalton Smith box twice on there. people looking over at Sky enviously thinking, hang on, I could get myself out there more often and be more in touch there with particularly with the British public, because as you just said there, not everyone has DAZN. So do you think that's also potentially another problem, another headache for Eddie Hearn?
Potentially, but I also think the flip side of that coin is it depends what stage you're at in your career. If I was turning pro, for me, Matchroom's the place to be, because, okay, yes, you may not be as active on UK shows. However, as we've seen with Campbell Hatton, they've got Matchroom Spain, Matchroom Italy, USA. Now they've got Australia, Mexico. They're in that many territories. In fairness to them, they're a global business. So if you were starting out day one of your pro career, I'd sign with them, unless, as has been the case with the Olympians, stupid money came from Boxer. But to go and build that experience, because I wouldn't want to be a fighter that the first time I'm boxing in America, say, is when it's for a world title or it's a super fight. I would want to have gone and done that process previously, because it can be a bit of a banana skin. We saw it with Josh Kelly, didn't we, back in 2019 against Ray Robinson, where, we were all getting hyped up about him. He didn't get in the win. Okay, he got the draw, but it was good of him. And I think long term, he'll have benefited from doing that process and fighting on a huge show there. He's had the exposure to it all. So I think all of that can only stand you in good stead. However, when you get to the magic 10 fight point, that's when I think then you're going to be thinking, well, hang on a minute, I'm not getting out. You pass the level of fighting every 3 months because obviously the opposition's getting better. So I think that's the point when you then boxer starts to become more appealing. I was watching an interview with Ben Shalom earlier today, and he said about obviously the Dalton Smith signing, that he believed Dalton Smith wanted to sign with Boxer. However, Boxer wouldn't commit to a 3-fight deal. It needed to be a longer term deal. He's done his 3 fights with Matchroom. We'll see where we are at the end of that. And I think that's all at the minute after last year. That's probably what Matchroom can realistically offer someone of Dalton Smith's level, where, they're 10 to 15 fights into their career, possibly British European level. But I don't think they can. They can't give a realistic commitment to say sign with us for 5 years or 3 years. I don't think they can do that, because the only people that they're really getting behind is that top tier. Every time anybody questions Eddie Hearn's stable, through all the losses that have gone over to Boxer, and they lost a lot of names, let's not forget, in the last 12, 18 months. And all he talks about is the fact that they've still got Anthony Joshua, Canelo Alvarez. Obviously now he slips Bam Rodriguez into that, and they're all valid names, and they're all, it's a great, it's a great foundation of your tier. However, I noticed today the Lee Wood Maurizio Lara card's being announced, and don't get me wrong, there's 4 or 5 fights on there I'd want to see, but we got used to Matchroom. In fairness, you'd be tuning in from before the bell, like at 4 o'clock, whenever the show started, you're tuning in and you're watching it through to midnight. Reality is now we don't. You're not that invested, or there's only 1 fight on before the bell, whereas we got used to 3 or 4 fights. So it's just a slippery slope. And I think 2023, we talked about promoters of the year, and Eddie Hearn just got it. Unless they pull something out of the bag, I think 2023 it's going to be a very, very different story.
And when you look at the quality of these cards, these misfit cards, I can never get that right. I don't know what's wrong with me. I need some new teeth from down your way.
Ray, please, please, please do not say Misfits boxing and quality in the same. It doesn't go.
Okay, let's try again. The problem that he's got is the quality of these YouTube cards. It just, although it'll appeal to a small minority, well, we say a small minority because we don't know just how wide they are, but these fans, to those that actually watch boxing, they'll be disappointed. They've voiced that as it's been known to, of the quality of those cards. So how does Eddie Hearn improve it, the crossover the other way, to keep those who are diehard boxing fans interested and involved? Because clearly the other way isn't working, is it? The people that will watch the YouTube cards aren't staying to then watch the likes of a Dalton Smith card, Callum Smith, that's going to be announced for 11th of March. Then they're not interested in that. So how does he turn it around the other way then?
Well, I think he's got to make his shows unmissable again, which, to be fair, I think he did do. Going back, 2015, 16, 17, 18, I thought they were. Then, in fairness, just natural cycle, you had a few retirements, Bellew, Brooke obviously sort of came to the end, but didn't really, So, and I think
already retired.
Exactly. I think this next generation were there just, 2019 and 2020 was always going to be a case of building a Buatsi, a Cordina, a Coley to be the replacements. Through the pandemic, that's obviously stalled progress a little bit as it would, but they're there now. We saw Joe Cordina headline. We've seen Lawrence Coley headline. He's now gone to Boxer. I think Dalton Smith's got the genuine potential to be a headline act in another 6 to 12 months and not on a next gen show. I think he can genuinely headline at the Sheffield Arena, but he's got to somehow make them unmissable shows. And I'll be honest, I don't think he's got the stable to do it because we've seen fight. Like, I'm a big fan of Liam Smith, and he's in a proper 50-50 fight with Eubank Jr. on Sky. I think realistically now, when you look at Eddie Hearn's stable, they're all aging. Joshua's 33, Dylan White's, I think, 35 just turned, Katie Taylor, 35, Canelo.
Even Lee Wood's 33.
Lee Wood, exactly. So I think what he needs to do, he really needs a Galalufai to capture the imagination. Dalton Smith, capture the imagination. Then I think the likes of Ben Whittaker, those sorts of people, he needs to get them signed. It's very simple. He's got no option, but he's got to get that magic back because, he's gone and done Australia. But I watched the first Australian show. Dempsey McKean, who they reckon is going to fight Joshua in April. Joshua's going to smash into bits. Dempsey McKean looked bang average for me. He didn't even look. No disrespect to British level at all, but it's not world level, and he didn't look British level for me. So I think that's what he's got to do. But it's going to take a better brain than me to work out how to do it.
And and I think that's a conundrum Eddie Hearn's going to have throughout this year. But also, as you already covered, and we've got it uploaded on a separate video, it tells us financially where DAZN is. So, guys, you've heard it from Josh. You've heard his views. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe on the channel. And we've got plenty of more content coming up. Don't forget, guys, we're on all the socials as well. So have a little look and see what we're getting up to. Take care.